What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of UFC 298. Coming off a very profitable event. We profit almost 9 units. And how about this? You guys have been asking for a free play for a while. I post a free play here on the channel for you guys. Not only just a regular free play, but a main event underdog plus 115 underdog free play. So I hope all you guys cash that with me. As you guys know, Ilia Topuria was one of the big plays that I was targeting on this card. We talked about it all week. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about that fight here in a second. You guys know what we're doing. We're doing matchmaking for all the main card winners, and we're going to talk about all 4 official plays that I targeted on this event. We hit 3 of our 4 plays, so we lost 1 play, and it was an underdog play, almost a 2-to-1 underdog, and we'll talk more about that. But a great night, and let's talk about this first fight. Ilia Topuria goes out there. He dethrones the featherweight king. I mean, I don't want to go too much into this fight. I was talking about it all week. You guys know why I was targeting Topuria here. Topuria, it was the younger, fresher fighter. Not a lot of people were taking in consideration that even though he's a younger fighter at 27 years old, he has a lot more experience than people think. He got into the fight game very early on. He has some of the sharpest and slickest boxing that we're witnessing in the game today. And although this was a step up in competition, sometimes when you're picking winners and you're targeting betting lines, you have to take everything into consideration. You have to take all moving parts into consideration. And the fact was, Alexander Volkanovski was coming off a devastating head kick knockout loss. He is halfway to turning 36 years old. You take a look at the last 15 championship fights where fighters were 35 and over, they all lost. Okay, these are things you have to take into consideration. And again, Topuria, even though he hasn't fought the best of the highest caliber of opponents, he's fought some decent talent, and he's always passed with flying colors. He's an extremely well-rounded fighter. I just thought that he checked off so many boxes, and I love the value here. So I hope you guys all cash that with me. I had 3.5 units on Topuria. Caught him at plus 115 underdog odds, and obviously I was ecstatic. If you guys saw my reaction to the fight, I posted that in IG. That was at the end of the night. I had a long day. I was rolling around the carpet, just focused in on the TV there, so that felt great to cash. In the next fight, Bobby Knuckles gets back in the win column. He defeats Paulo Costa. Oh, excuse me, guys. Let's do some matchmaking. Like I said, for some reason, I always forget to jump right into the matchmaking. So for Ilia Topuria, this is a very interesting conversation. Does Alexander Volkanovski deserve the immediate rematch? I think that you could argue that. If you look at a lot of the longtime reigning champions in divisions, if you look at when they've lost their title the first time, a lot of them have been granted that immediate rematch. You look at Israel Adesanya when he was facing off of Alex when he lost the first time. You take a look at Amanda Nunes, number 1 Amanda Nunes. She slipped on a banana peel against Pena. She got that immediate rematch. I mean, we've seen this a lot throughout the years, and it's kind of hard to argue that Volkanovski is not deserving of an immediate rematch, even though he's only won 1 of his last 3 fights, which really doesn't fully describe that situation as well, because a lot of people thought that he edged Islam Makhachev as he went up in weight, like the warrior he is. And then he had a nice victory over Yair Rodriguez, getting the TKO finish. And then after that, against Islam in the rematch, he takes that fight on short notice, okay? So it's really hard to just say that Volkanovski has only won 1 of his last 4 fights. And then also, there's really not a lot of fighters in this division right now that are barking up the tree for a title shot. You could say if Max Holloway gets a victory over Justin Gaethje, he's definitely deserving. So I think that's the major factor. If Holloway gets that W, he's next in line for the title shot. He's facing Justin Gaethje. That's going to be a stiff test for him. If he loses that fight, then you probably argue that Volkanovski deserves that immediate rematch, because other than that, you have Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is coming off a loss even before this fight, even if he gets a W over Ortega. Ortega has been extremely inactive throughout the years. He's coming off 2 losses in a row, even if he gets a W over Yair. So, I'm saying it's either Volkanovski or Max Holloway. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles in that division. But Ilia Topuria, man, this is going to be a fighter that is going to be hanging around as the champion in the division for some time to come. And again, I'll briefly talk about Movsar Evlovoyov, undefeated, but this dude doesn't finish anybody, and he has not impressed me. I think he needs another big victory before he's really talking about being in the mix for a title shot, in my opinion. So, but back to Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker, a step ahead of Paulo Costa. We did pick Whitaker, but we were a little worried that he could have potentially be hit with the big shot too. He's a fighter that's getting up there in age, was coming off a brutal loss. Costa almost finished him at the end of that first round. So if Costa had a little bit more time, maybe he gets that finish. But let's be clear, tit for tat throughout this entire fight, Whitaker was a clear step ahead. And we saw a motivated Whitaker. He looked very good out there. And what I want to see next for Robert Whitaker, this may intrigue some of you guys. I want to know what you think about this. I want to see Robert Whitaker face off against Sean Strickland. I really like that fight. I want to see Sean Strickland get an opportunity to get a big win and jump right back into the picture of fighting for the belt again, because that loss that he had against Dricus du Plessis was such a close fight. And you could argue maybe Sean deserves the immediate rematch. I don't know exactly how this is going to unravel here in the middleweight division. You got Israel Adesanya potentially coming back for an immediate title shot against DDP. There's just some moving parts there. But I would like to see Robert Whitaker face off against Sean Strickland. That's a fight I would love to see. And the winner of that fight would be next in line to fight for the belt, depending on what's going on with DDP, if he fights Izzy or whatnot, or when Izzy's coming back. But that's kind of what I'm feeling there for that fight. Then we had Ian Gary defeating Jeff Neal. Now this fight here, love him or hate him, you guys got to start understanding that Ian Gary is a very talented fighter, and the judges completely disrespect Gary here. Okay, completely disrespect. The judge that scored this 29-28 for Neal, they were way off. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be rude, because I know some of you guys may think, oh, there was an argument that Neal could have won 2 rounds. You could argue that he potentially won 1 round. There was I think it was the first round, I believe, first or second. I'm trying to remember there, but there was an argument for that 1 round. I still didn't even edge him on that round. Gary was landing the way cleaner shots. Okay, he was using his footwork. Neal was frustrated. He wasn't able to close the distance, and he wasn't letting his hands go enough when he kind of boxed him in. And I thought that Ian Gary put on a clinic, and he won 30-27. And I'm not saying that from the bias sense that he was the second leg of a parlay that cashed for me, a huge play. It was a combined plus 119 underdog play, 5 units, was huge. We'll talk about the other leg in a second. Love him or hate him. Again, I'm not a fan of Ian Gary's, and you guys know that. But Ian Gary is a tricky fighter, and he's going to be a problem for a lot of fighters in the division. If you want to talk about what's next for him, you guys know he called out Colby Covington, and that's a fight that actually makes some sense to me. You take a look at the top of this division right now, the top of the welterweight division, and that's a fight that makes a decent amount of sense to me. Colby coming off a horrid performance against Leon Edwards. He says he was injured. You got Shavkat Rakhmonov, Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad's probably going to get the next title shot right against Leon Edwards. Shavkat is right in the mix too. So you either match Gary up with Colby Covington, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, that's what I'm seeing there. Sean Brady's also coming off a big victory, but Sean Brady just had a fight fall through, right? He had to pull out, so he's not really in the conversation right now. Let him do his thing. I have no problem with seeing that fight. I would like it. Colby Covington versus Ian Gary. Ian Gary is embracing a fight against a guy that is going to verbally just try to flamethrower him and bring up all types of personal stuff, and he's embracing it, and you got to give him respect for that. So let's see that fight next. Morab Dvalishvili goes out there, finishes extremely strong against Henry Cejudo, winning the last 2 rounds of the fight after a little bit of a slow start. But this guy's cardio is the best in the game right now. Nobody's cardio is better than Morab's. The size advantage was the difference here. Morab was the much larger man. If you guys remember, if you were looking at them in the cage, Morab was much larger. Cejudo is such a stud. He's such a tough dude. He's undersized, but he's so technically sound. He looked good in that first round, had some control time over Morab, but when push came to shove, the cardio and the size was just going to be way too much for Henry Cejudo there. And what's next for Morab? There's 2 different ways we can go here, and I'm curious what you guys think. I would love to know your guys' opinion on this. I think that Morab has to be next to fight for the belt, but Dana White was not happy the way that Morab was just never willing to fight for the belt. He never wanted to fight against his boy Sterling there. So you got O'Malley versus Chito Vera. Okay, there's a couple stud fighters in here that are right on the verge of fighting for that belt. You can argue that a Corey Sandhagen versus Morab fight would be a phenomenal fight, phenomenal matchup, and the winner that would get an immediate title shot. But realistically, I think you have to say that it's just Morab versus the winner of Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera. I think you have to say that. If Yadong Song goes out there and beats Piotr Jan, he's another fighter that is just phenomenal, and he's there. But remember, Corey Sandhagen just beat him recently. So I think if we're being fair with this, Morab should get the winner of Sean O'Malley. and Marlon Chito Vera. I think that's the way that you got to go. Anthony Hernandez defeats Roman Kopylov. This was the lone loss that I had on the event, and it was a big play of mine. I did throw 5 units. Shout out to Vanderlei Silva, too, getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm a huge fan of Vanderlei's, one of the greatest warriors we've ever seen in the cage. Anthony Hernandez, man, what a stud. He took some big shots from Kopylov and walked through them and just broke him. I had 5 units on Kopylov, caught it at plus 195, and this was just a straight up value target for me. I know Kopylov was taking this fight on short notice, but I think Kopylov is an extremely dangerous fighter. I thought he could have potentially got a finish and just got the better of the striking, but he let this fight go down to the mat, and that was to his detriment. Kopylov's been training, obviously, over in Russia, training with the Dagestan fighters, and I thought that he would have been able to keep this fight standing with the work he's been putting in on his takedown defense. But Anthony Hernandez really showed up. That was a big win for him. The only loss we took on the card there. So we got some more W's to talk about here in a second. Who do we want to see Anthony Hernandez fight next? This is a fun conversation here, as he's the last fighter to talk about if we're doing some matchmaking, the first main card winner. He was currently ranked, or he is currently ranked until they adjust this. He was the 13th ranked fighter in the middleweight division on Tapology. I want to see him fight Jack Hermanson. I think that the performance that Jack Hermanson just put on and then that main event fighting against Joe Pyfer, they both fought right around the same time, so they'll be able to heal up and we could target a fight between these two men down the line, which would work out perfectly for them. I want to see Jack Hermanson versus Anthony Hernandez, 2 fighters that have phenomenal cardio. They're well-rounded. I think that'd be a fun fight. That's the fight that I do want to see. There's a couple other arguments you can make, maybe a Nasruddin Amavov matchup, Jared Cannonier, that's another piece that you can move around the division with some of these up-and-coming fighters. He's kind of a gatekeeper towards the very top, but I want to see Nasruddin Amavov versus Anthony Hernandez. That is the fight that I want to see. All right, we head over to the prelims. We're talking some more W's here as Amanda Lemos, a 4-unit play that I had, got it at minus 125. The action, it just continued to come in on Mackenzie Dern, and I was so happy. I was sitting there licking my chops leading up to this fight. I mean, I get it. People thought maybe Duran could have got a sub, but I don't know, man. I don't think people were really doing their homework, man. Amanda Lemos is a fighter that's only been subbed once in her career as a pro. That was that fight where she slipped up and got caught in that standing head and arm triangle choke against Jessica Andrade. Besides that, she's never been subbed, showed extreme toughness in her last fight, going 5 rounds with the champ. And we knew that she was going to have a significant striking advantage. I thought Amanda Lemos easily, or maybe I shouldn't say easily, but took 2 of the 3 rounds, okay? If you understand what you're watching and the judging criteria nowadays, it's all about damage. She was destroying Mackenzie Dern's legs, destroying that calf, landing clean shots to the face, bloodying her up. Mackenzie Dern was trying to get those takedowns. She didn't really do anything with her jiu-jitsu, even when she was on top, even when she was working so hard to try to mount, did nothing. No damage was landed, and Amanda Lemos deserved to win that fight. That was a solid W there. Felt great about that. Amanda Lemos lightened Duran up, and Duran now has just, especially if you take into consideration she should have lost the Tisha Torres fight, this girl does not get her hand raised, and the victory she had over Angela Hill was a complete anomaly. I don't even know how she looked so good in that fight. It was weird. Angela Hill should have, that was a fight I thought Angela Hill should have had, but she did not show up on the night there. All right, Marcos Rogério de Lima gets the knockout over Junior Tafa. This was a fight that was made on short notice. You guys know the whole backstory. Justin Tafa had to pull out. His brother steps in. I was definitely on Marcos Rogério de Lima, and you guys know Junior Tafa is an extremely dangerous striker, but his takedown defense is a lot more suspect than Justin Tafa. The performance that we saw from him against Muhammad Usman, that was not that long ago, was so alarming, and we've seen Marcos Rogério de Lima go out and take advantage of fighters that are lacking with their takedown defense. Remember what he did to Maurice Green? I mean, he's willing to play it smart and try to get a W. It was either Junior Tafa was going to get that early KO or De Lima was just going to be the superior fighter here. And he used the takedowns and changing levels to kind of to shake Junior Tafa up and set up the strikes and got that knockout. It was brutal, and a big win for Marcos there. And Junior Tafa, even though he takes another L, the UFC will reward him with stepping on short notice, so he'll get another big opportunity. They'll probably set him up with a good fight, a striking type of matchup. Rinya Nakamura is an absolute stud, big prospect in the game. I mean, you saw the work he did in the first round, especially the volume this dude puts. He's just willing to go into an absolute firefight. He's not scared to go down into the guard of these tricky submission artists, a guy like Carlos Vera, who really his one avenue was pulling off some type of heel hook or some tricky sub. Rinya didn't care. Rinya just but just bombarded him, got him down to the mat, and just was pounding him up. I love the aggressiveness for Rinya there. Zhang Mingyang does get the knockout over Brenson Ribeiro. One of the few fights I picked wrong on this card, and Ribeiro, he has dangerous power in his hands. I thought he could have potentially landed that big shot. This was a fight, you guys know, we talked about there was not a lot of confidence behind this pick. We specifically talked about how Ribeiro is very, very lacking defensively, and there was potential that Mingyang could have landed a big shot on him, and that's what he did. Now, this was the first play I actually hit, right, as we were going up the card, but this was the first leg of a parlay. You guys know I was raving about this dude, Danny Barlow. He was, in fact, the other piece to my two-team parlay that I caught at plus 119 odds. Plus 119 odds on a 5-unit play of Danny Barlow and Ian Gary. Felt great about this spot here. And the reason why is that Josh Quinlan is a fighter that is willing to duke it out, willing to strike it out in the feet, and has not showed me enough as far as his grappling goes. You saw in his last fight against Trey Waters where when he struggled on the feet, he was getting outstruck 2-1. He shot some takedowns and they just did not look good. And Danny Barlow is just a fighter that I've been hearing rave reviews about coming out of Tennessee, and the 8-inch reach advantage that he was going to have, the speed advantage. I felt he was going to crack Quinlan up with some big shots. At the very least, he was going to out-volume him. And you guys saw I put some content up here on the channel and on Instagram about that. And Danny Barlow is a fighter that is raw, and you give him some time to continue to develop, and he's going to be a problem in this division, if you ask me. Just we'll see how he looks as he gets tested against some grapplers in the division. That's the only question there. Oban Elliott does get the decision over Val Woodburn. He got hit with some big shots, though, in that fight. All in all, he was the superior fighter, but we were worried about that one aspect there. If some of you guys were targeting Oban Elliott in a parlay or whatnot, because he was a big favorite, we were worried that he could have got cracked with a shot and finished, because Val Woodburn's a headhunter, does have power, and he did hurt Oban. But Oban using the grappling and just mixing things up, and he was the superior fighter. And that's a nice UFC debut victory for Oban Elliott, who seems to be a really solid dude. Happy for him there. And then Miranda Maverick, in the first fight of the event, gets the victory over Andrea Lee, who Andrea Lee is still a decent fighter. We saw she had a moment in the first round, but good to see that Miranda Maverick is starting to put it together. She's very young. She's starting to put it all together and start to put some performances out there where she's looking good against respectable opposition. And Andrea Lee, who's a good fighter, and Miranda Maverick, we keep an eye on her. She's very young. All right, guys. So we profit just under 9 units on the card. A huge event for us. And you guys know what time it is. It's time to take those units, push them right into the next event. I'm already getting ready to sit here and record this upcoming week's event. All right, UFC Mexico. You guys know it's going to be a fun event, and we're going to make some big time profits on this event too. The ball is going to start to roll. Right now is the time to get in with me. You guys know that. I'm telling you, the hot streak is due. We're going to have a couple months of just hitting and hitting and hitting. So do not hesitate to reach out to me. Hope you guys see some new things to the channel here, as I am in 4K right now. I'll be in 4K for all these types of videos, my full card prediction videos. So you get to see this mug a little bit even more crisp for you guys, and hopefully the mic sounded good. All right, guys, I hope you all profited. Comment below. What did you guys target? What was the misses you had, the hits? What did you guys profit? I want to know how your guys' night went. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.